Hello and welcome to Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. It's episode 28. I cannot believe we are already at episode 28. It's amazing. March feels so long ago, and yet it was not that long ago. But this show, as always, is presented by the International Brotherhood of Magicians. You can join the IBM at magician.org/join-the-IBM/join. You can also renew your membership. You get copies of the Linking Ring. It's a fantastic group to be a part of. They've done great jobs giving you content every week, including this show, but also Woody Aragon was yesterday. Just a fantastic organization. Definitely make sure you join them. This show is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. ET. That's if you're on the East Coast, and 4 p.m. if you're on the West Coast, 6 p.m. if you're on Central Time. And if you want to download this as an audio-only podcast, just go to Apple Music. It's also available at other places where you would download your podcast. WhoBooksThat.com. It'll send you a link right to where you can download this for your iPhone, your smart device. It is in the top 100 performing arts podcasts in 6 different countries around the world, which is insane. Japan, Australia, Germany, United States, UK, and Canada. So thank you so much. Keep reviewing it. If you give it 5 stars, it really helps make this podcast more visible. And as you can tell, I am very, very excited. Greg is in the building. Rudy is a legend. I agree. Greg is also a legend himself. David Kelly is saying hello from Springfield, Pennsylvania. And Steve is here all the way from Missouri, St. Louis. I love the City Museum there. It is neither about the city nor really a museum. But I am so, so excited to introduce our guest tonight. A very quick story about our guest. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was at a neighbor's house. We were down the block, and there was a little outdoor pool party, fun thing. My family was there, a couple other families, and the television was in the living room, which was right off of the patio, and I heard the music for Rudy Coby's special on Fox. I caught it in its initial airing, was being re-aired. I was so excited. I ran from outside into the living room, not realizing that there was a very good screen door separating the outdoors from the indoors. So not only did I make it to see that special and demand that nobody change the channel, but I broke a neighbor's screen door. My parents had to replace it. I took that thing down. That's how excited I was to see Rudy Coby perform. He's the coolest magician on earth. He is just an incredible performer and such an original act. I am so excited that I want to play music as he comes on. Make some noise. Get excited from your apartment or home. It's Rudy Coby, everybody. Yes. How you doing? That song is a bop. I do it all the time. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm here in Texas.
Nice. How is Texas treating you?
It's hot down here.
I can imagine.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, you started off in New York, and I believe you were born in the same hospital as Jeff McBride.
I was. Same one-room delivery room, So I think, the mailman got around or something. But so bizarre. He was the only magician I really knew growing up. The most, the only famous one. So it was pretty weird to have, one of the, I don't know, most original magicians in the world right in my backyard,
Yeah, although he was really original, but it's interesting because I think he spawned, there was a lot of people who imitated him or did things that were Jeff McBride adjacent. So was the fact that you were so different from Jeff McBride something that helped create your friendship?
Yes, absolutely. Because everybody just stole from him. I mean, there were road companies of Jeff McBride in upstate New York from the time he was 14 or 15 years old. But I knew. Oh no.
You can't talk about your childhood without.
Same hair. That's good.
That's right.
But it was incredible. It was incredible growing up with Jeff because he was an inspiration just because he was so original, and he was and I recognized that he became famous very quickly just because he was so original. And so he really raised the bar for me.
And when you were starting out, like you had great close-up chops. You were doing like traditional linking rings. I know at 16, I think you wrote a book called Confidential Close-Up.
Yeah, how do you? That's good. Yes, I did.
Oh, I did some deep digging.
Yeah, that's a deep digging. Yeah, I mean, I worked my way through college doing comedy clubs and close up. And right before I came up with the Four Legs Act, I thought I was probably going to be a close up guy, because I did everything. But, I was working Las Vegas and Atlantic City doing close up, sort of like Michael Skinner, Yeah. So I'd be flown on private jets and stuff back and forth to Vegas. They used to have an airline to Vegas called MGM Air, and it was like 14 or 15 seats. They gutted a 747. So I would do close up on the way to Vegas, maybe a show over the weekend, and then back again. So I thought I was going to be a close up guy.
And there was a quote, I don't know if this was during the close up or after close up, but you went to Atlantic City. It says where his contract was extended by Donald Trump so many times after being nominated Entertainer of the Year. He did the second home. And also that same article, he did a special show for Donald's birthday celebration.
Yeah.
Now, would you have done a different act?
I'm not really a fan, but it's funny because a good friend of mine from those days said, "Oh, come on, he loves you," So it was a different time back then. Yeah, but I worked at Trump Castle, and they had great variety acts and some of the best acts in the world. So that was actually my first kind of Vegas show, and it was very bizarre.
I think when I think of Donald Trump, I don't think he has very good taste. However, if he likes you, that means he's done something right.
Yeah. It was a strange thing because I read his book but it was funny. The first time I met him, he was the first person I ever met. And this is 1988. He was the first person I ever met that used hand sanitizer. You know what I mean? Anybody shook his hand, he would hang out in the casino because he wanted to get recognized. And as soon as anybody touched his hand, though, he had a guy there be a full on washing off the lower life forms. But
he wondered how he hasn't gotten sick this pandemic, and now we know the secret.
Yeah, absolutely. He was way ahead of the curve as far as that goes. But I have to say, but back then they had variety shows and, big sort of, that's the days. That's my first publicity picture.
It's so good. I love it. And it also really sums up because you are not just another magician. Can you walk us through that transition from like classic magic? I know there's a period where you just threw the cards away, right? You were just like, I'm not going to go near them.
Yeah. I had won like my Magician of the Year contest, my SAM Magician of the Year contest, the local one, 2 years in a row. And I was getting a little bored of magic because I started doing comic books. And magic, I got a little bummed because all the magicians were just copying each other or Jeff McBride. And then I saw David Bowie in the Serious Moonlight tour. And I saved up. I only had $110. I took a bus to New York to see him. And I bought a ticket in the front, and the guy wanted $1,000 for the ticket. And I said, I only have $100. And so just before the show began, he sold me the ticket for $100, and it was in the third row. So I got Bowie at his peak in the third row. And so it just occurred to me, he did this song where he sang to a skull, he had sunglasses on singing to a skull, this song Cracked Actor. And it occurred to me that, what he was doing with simple props just made it original. And as we know, David Bowie took mime. He went to mime school, so he's one of us. And it occurred to me when I was there that, everybody in this room will change places with him, even though he's this old guy. And then I looked back to see how old he actually was, and he was 37. So he changed me. I went home that night, threw away all my magic, or gave it away to people, and just, I wanted to make something as original. What I thought was I want to be able to open for him. I want something where I would not lose that audience. And it was the same thing when I saw Prince in Purple Rain. The first 10 minutes of Purple Rain, I just, it changed my life. And I was just like, I want to do a visual act where I could open for him and not get thrown off the stage. And and that was my mission. but it was seeing those two people, and just realizing there was a whole different level of entertainment.
And one of the things you mentioned in your lecture notes, which I cannot more highly recommend, How to Become a World Famous Magician by Rudy Coby. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned the 3-minute rule, because after you threw away all of that traditional stuff, that the leg act is a 3-minute act that I think it doesn't matter that it's 3 minutes. I think one of the things that you mentioned is that people don't know how long it is. They just know that they love it.
Yeah, because that's what I tell people. It's like because people ask me for advice all the time, and I tell them, you don't need to learn. Of course, you need to understand magic. You need to do every trick there is. You know what I mean? Study all the books and do kid shows, do stage shows, do comedy shows. Just so you really understand the art. But in the end, you don't need to do an hour-long show to become famous. If you have a 3-minute-long act, you can travel the world tomorrow. And with an original character and strong, original material. But this gives you a goal. You know what I mean? You write 3 minutes on a piece of paper, put it on your bathroom, mirror, and if you just say, "I'm going to come up with a strong 3-minute act," it changes your life. You'll never have to pay for a magic convention again because they'll fly you there. I went from basically being in a small town, never was on a plane. I entered one magic contest, and within the next 2 years, I'd been to 80 different countries, So, and by it being 3 minutes, it just allows you to, find that one song that inspires you, come up with a beginning, middle, and end that, and it's just much more approachable. It's hard, but once you have that 3 minutes, and if it's strong and original, then you can build, another 3 minutes and another 3 minutes, and that's how I built my whole show, 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah, all you need is 3 minutes is fantastic magic advice and the world's worst pickup line, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And you alluded to this a little bit because you entered that act, that solid 3 minutes,
right,
into a magic competition. But I think you were sleeping on somebody's couch in Atlanta. Can you take us back to that moment?
Mr. Dan Garrett. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to enter this comedy competition, and I had no videotape. So I had told Dan about the act, and then I kind of put it together with, I made a kitty, took his kitty litter box, covered it with a green cloth, and went to a comedy club, videotaped it, sent it, and I got accepted, So it was, I went from Dan Garrett's couch to traveling around the world, Been very lucky. And I couldn't have done it without him. He's most creative magician, he's one of the very few magicians that he will fool you. Like if my life depended on someone being fooled, I would get Dan Garrett to do it, almost above anybody else.
Well, you know what? Why don't you say that to Dan himself? Because he's in the building. Dan, from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
We're fine. Good. You remember me. That's fine.
Yes, of course. You named your cat after me, so I can't really.
Right.
He had 4 legs. His hair stands up, and he bites.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Rudy.
Yeah.
And Dan, I know you had to pull
Carol,
some.
couldn't do it without Carol either.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
I know so Rudy's on your couch.
Yeah, our guest bedroom actually.
The Desert Magic Seminar.
Yep.
And there's no slots left. They've already booked the acts that they want. Dan, walk us through how you managed to get Rudy on.
Okay, so we find that there's an open mic, but right before that, at the Punchline, they're having a Joan Rivers lookalike contest.
Amazing.
Everybody's there to see the Joan Rivers.
That's the perfect lineup.
So we have Rudy coming on, and people talking and laughing about all the Joan Rivers lookalikes. And so Rudy comes out, and everybody's talking. He's doing his act, and I'm videotaping it. And suddenly people start looking at Rudy, start talking, and they're like mesmerized by this act they've never seen. And I'm videotaping it with my little JVC camera. And so we videotape the act to get a great reaction at the end, standing ovation. So I send it in 10 minutes, and they're looking for this contest was the Desert Seminar. They're looking for 10-minute act. So he only had like 3 minutes, and they had already slots filled. But once they took this video, Pete Byro and these people that were booking it, they'd never seen anything like it. they wanted him. They put him in the show just so they could see the act and figure out how the heck he was doing what he was doing. They had no clue, and so it was so strong.
Jay Marshall was the one who they bumped someone else because of Jay Marshall saying that I should be in. It was
right. Jay Marshall was so strong, so original, they could not refuse him.
And I'd heard that the first tape, the Joan Rivers one, you didn't get his feet, so you had to go to the clown college.
Yeah. You couldn't see my feet, but it showed the reaction of them, standing and going crazy. So then we went to the Ringling Brothers audition for clown college, like in the ring, in the center ring. Yeah. And we taped it there. Dan knew somebody from so I was auditioning for clown college, but really
Did you get in though? That's the real question.
Yeah, Steve Marshall was the guy.
Yeah. But it was really funny for years and years. This is what I've heard is I didn't go to clown college, but they played my tape for 20 years, like to inspire people to come up with, original clown acts, I guess.
Right.
But it just shows you, I mean, it's like, if you have 3 minutes, get it on, and back then, Dan had a camera, but back then it wasn't so easy to get a tape, I mean, it was it was a different thing now, with your phone and it's perfect quality. But
that's the thing, you just pop the cassette into the tape and it records it right onto the the clunker of a camera, but it worked.
Yeah.
And you were performing for a pretty big audience of a who's who at that time. This is, I think, a picture from that moment.
Oh my God.
I believe Lance Burden might have been there. Was there a lot of nerves going into it, or were you pretty much focused on the act?
Look, I was scared. I was pooping my pants because I had never been on a plane before. The whole reason because I was from a small town, upstate New York. I had driven to Atlanta, and but I had never been on a plane. I thought flights cost $1,000 because that's just what I thought. And Dan was like, "You can get a ticket for $200." So I was like, "Oh, then I want to do it," And so I bought the ticket. But when I went to Vegas, I didn't even have a room. I couldn't afford a room. So the first night I was in the lobby of the Frontier Hotel, and then a friend of mine said, "Oh, just, come up and sleep on our floor or whatever." So I was literally in the room of another contestant, and they had their professional props. And I was literally taping my kitty litter box table, I mean, it was a waiter table and a kitty litter box and a little plastic chainsaw, and I think they felt sorry for me, and so when I went down there, I worshipped Genie magazine and Vernon was my my god, and I look out there and I was opening the second half and Di Vernon, Siegfried and Roy, Lance Burton, everybody. And the first half hadn't gone well, so the audience was not in a good mood, and so I was scared crapless. But my music began, did the act, and my life changed from that moment. I mean, I knew it, because by the time I walked off stage, the prize was $40,000. It was all these bookings all over the world, and so as soon as I came off stage, even though it was the first night of the convention, every one of the bookers was there. So I won all the prizes within 5 minutes of walking off stage. It was incredible. And then Vernon, I met him on the way out. And so he told everybody that I should have won the whole contest because I was the only one that got a standing ovation and was blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't even, when he was saying this in front of me, I was just speechless. He's just my hero. So I was more scared than ever. But this shows you something about magic contests. Is that contest was $40,000? I didn't. Not only didn't I win, I didn't come in second place. I didn't come in third place. I didn't come in fourth place. Right in the top, I wasn't even in the top 5. And then apparently somebody, I forget who, but somebody said, "You can't." He was the only one that got a standing ovation. You're not going to give him anything. So they split the 5th. I tied for 5th, and then they gave me a couple $100. But I didn't care. But it just shows you, it's not about winning the contest. It's really about being seen and making an impression.
Yeah.
So, but it changed my life. And Pete Byro was the one who really, he was one of the people that really got me in that, along with Jay Marshall. So it's just amazing how people like Dan and Pete Byro can change your life,
And Dan, what did you see in Rudy? I mean, he was a young kid coming up from the Catskills in New York, coming down to Atlanta. What did you see in him? And as you saw his rise, was that something that you expected to see?
Well, I wasn't that surprised. First off, when he was 16, he had all those notes for his card book, and I saw those private notes. I don't know where they are now, but in fact, we came up with a trick together that we both totally forgot. We didn't write it down.
I know it.
I don't remember the trick. But anyway, so we got a booking from a guy who wanted to hire me, president of Hardee's Hamburgers, which is a big hamburger chain, and I guess still is. So I couldn't do it. So he said, well, I'd like to double your fee. I said, no. He says, I'll triple your fee. And I said, you wouldn't want me to cancel the booking for you because somebody else had outbid you. I can't do that to my other client. But I got this guy. He's really good. All right. He's going to be a big star. He's going to be the next David Copperfield. I described Rudy, and I booked Rudy on this gig. And Rudy, I think, made more money on that gig at that time than he'd ever made before. So he had a little seed money going on there, and it was and they loved it. They thought he was the next great thing, and he proved it because he was on TV a few years later.
Yeah,
special.
It was funny. The thing I had forever is there was no Hardee's on the West Coast, but it's all over the East Coast, and so he gave me a Hardee's black card, so I could go to any Hardee's anywhere in the world, and. That kept me in food for a long time when they finally opened one out in Vegas. But that was fantastic, and it just that kind of. I also that's the period when I was doing close-up stuff. So I think when I flew to North Carolina and they had like a Corvette waiting for me, and I go out there and I was booked for 2 hours of close-up, but I just started talking with them, and which tends to happen. Like even when I used to do close-up, it's more about making them feel, if you're funny and you're talking to them and they're being funny, that's as important as any card trick, Sometimes on the flight, or in that case, I think I did 2 tricks the whole night because they just liked me and we were talking. And he said, oh, let's see you do something, And, I think a lot of magicians make the mistake of thinking that the tricks are the thing. If they're happy and they're laughing, better than anyone, Harrison. It's like if they're laughing, they want you to be around. And if they are, and if you make them, if you genuinely make them the life of the party, that was sort of my approach to close up was, that's why I did very good with like high rollers is I learned how to make them the focus of it and, that they would be doing the funnier jokes and blah, 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 Yeah,
it's amazing. And Dan, I know you have to run, but I just love one of the beautiful things about the magic community is that people will mentor you and take chances and oh God, I hope you're okay, Dan.
Well, it's one of these inhalers.
Those are very expensive, Dan. You need to buy those.
They're a dime a dozen.
There's a kid suffocating there.
What's Nick doing?
Thanks for everything.
I'm sorry. Wrap it up. What are you asking?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I just love that you supported Rudy as a young magician, and I guess is that something that you continue to do? Is that something you encourage other people to do?
I really try. I can't believe. I mean, we met. I think it was at a Tannen's, and Jeff McBride introduced. I want to meet my friend Rudy, and I think we met then. We hit it off. He drove to Atlanta. An agent that had some bookings for him, she went on to book a cruise ship, and Rudy was stuck in Atlanta with nowhere to stay. So we took care of him, and we're glad. I'm glad to see anybody that I've had a touch with helped out a little bit, be successful. I love it.
Yeah,
I revel in that. So
congratulations,
Rudy. Keep it up. Say hi to Nick, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you so much. Dan Garrett, everybody. Make sure you go to dangarrettmagic.com. He has a lot of great stuff. And make sure you support him that way. Dan Garrett, everybody. So fun. And that takes us, so you've now performed. People know who you are. They know what you're offering is something that nobody else can offer. And I think very soon after you end up at the Crazy Horse in Paris.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was funny, you know, I only had 3 dreams. I really, you know, like when I was coming up, I wanted to be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. I missed that by 2 months or something. Yeah, I was just, you know, I just missed it because when he retired. And so I didn't get that, but the other ones, I wanted my own TV special. And the other one I wanted was to work the Crazy Horse, because I had heard that that's the best, you know, nightclub. And if you don't know what the Crazy Horse is, it's in Paris on the Champs-Élysées, you know, and you know, it's expensive to get in. I mean, the audience would, you know, some nights Tina Turner would be there, or Prince, or I met Grace Jones there, you know. It's really an incredible audience, everybody drinking champagne, and then the best acts in the world. I mean, it's still there, but back then there would be 3 acts in the show. And you would have people like George Carl, who was maybe the best, you know, clown comedian in ever, you know, and people like Otto Wesley and Finn John and Norm Nielsen. So I had seen Norm Nielsen perform there, you know, very classy. It was a very small place though, you know, like the stage. I mean, I literally couldn't stand on stage, you know. I mean, like the most beautiful girls. It's a naked girl show. It's a nude girl show. So it's but the stage is made to showcase the girls. So the girls, you think they're 6 feet tall, but they're actually 5'2" or something, you know. So, but the stage was too small for me. So the
you're a tall guy. You're at least 6 feet, like 4, right?
I'm 6'4" and like, you know, 7 with the hair, you know. So the boss.
Are you able to do the extending thing? How does that work?
Well, that's the thing is like, I mean, I dreamt of being there, but so I got booked at FISM. And the boss from the Crazy Horse had heard about me. So he flew to, it was Lausanne, you know, this is 1989 or something, 88. So he flew in to see me and loved the act and said, he came backstage and said he wanted to be the Crazy Horse. And I had seen it because I had done some TV in Paris. And he had seen me on television there. And, but I told him, I said, I can't do your stage. He goes, no. I'm going to redo the whole Crazy Horse. He gutted the Crazy Horse after 30 or 40 years, and then said the stage will be giant, and da-da-da-da. So he did do that, but when I flew in, the stage was maybe another foot tall. I mean, it was crazy. So here I had my dream gig. The big opening is coming, but I can't do the end of my act, which is, you know, I mean, especially when you're only doing 3 minutes, you kind of need the ending where I stretch my body to like 12 or 13 feet tall. So we were waiting for 3 weeks, and I just thought I was going to get fired. You know what I mean? I had different things I was trying to do. And then that night, like that morning, I discovered that at the end of my act, after I cut my legs off, if I laid down on the stage and put my legs in the audience, I could stretch my body out over the audience's heads. And then, you know, so it looked crazy, you know? So, yeah, and I was there for 2 years with people like Tom Mullica and, you know, some of the greatest acts in the world, but just doing 3 minutes.
And I think you also helped Kevin James at one point, right? Because I think he was at the Crazy Horse as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was the one who I showed the boss at the Crazy Horse Kevin's tape. I showed him Tom Mullica, believe it or not. He saw Tom, because I thought Tom Mullica, he'll be perfect for the Crazy Horse. And the boss didn't like it because the tape that he had wasn't good. It was like 8 minutes long. It was different music. And it was kind of, I don't know, it just didn't feel the same. And I brought the tape to my agent, and even she wouldn't book it. And I was like, guys, trust me, just have him, if he just does the cigarettes, it'll be the best thing in the world because it's such an intimate place. So they wouldn't do it though. So anyway, I left, and they had another act come in that was a disaster. So he immediately wanted me to come back, but I was in Hawaii with my then, you know, fiance. And I was like, I can't, if I come back now, I'm dead. You know? But I told him, I said, why don't you give Tom Mullica a chance? Just try it. And he was like, And I was like, if you don't like him, then I'll come back. But you fly him in and see if it works, you know. And I told him exactly what parts to use, and then he was a sensation. It was fantastic, you know. And yeah, and Kevin, I always try to, I forget the term for it, but I always try to help out people that I believe in. I love creative people. You know what I mean? Kevin James was, my best friend. We developed stuff together, and I really, really believed in him. And that was an example of, he's a great magician, very original. But until he came up with the first thing they did that really stuck out was when he did the things with Antonio. The little person. He puts a little miniature Charlie Chaplin together, and it comes to life. So once he had that, I was on the Paul Daniels show, which is the best back then. Was the best. It was like the Johnny Carson show of London, and I was inventing stuff for Paul, and I was going back on myself. But I booked. They asked me who I would book if I controlled it. So I was able to put Kevin, his first TV appearance, I think, certainly in Europe, and my friend Les Bubb and a couple other people. But I just don't see helping other magicians as being a competition. It's the more you're, especially if they're creative, the more you can help them. It always comes back. So.
Yeah, and you and Kevin also did Vaudeville 2000, which was a spread in Genie.
Yeah.
That's Rudy Coby and Kevin. This poster, by the way, by a Disney animator, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
This is some of the lineup. You had Abner, Les Bubb, aforementioned. There's a Kevin James.
Yeah.
There's you. That is Kevin James back then. But you know what? Let's bring in Kevin James now.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Amazing. Hey, Kevin.
Very similar. You look very similar to Shot.
Well, there are just, you have to go through those phases. There's no shortcut.
Can you guys talk a little bit about Vaudeville 2000? Because I know you spelled out sort of the ethos of it in the magazine, which was there's that 1%. There's 99% of as Max Maven, I think, had told you. I don't know if the quote is attributable to him, but 99% of anything is crap.
Right.
So it's about finding that 1%. And the way you know it is if they say, oh, I hate whatever this performing arts is, but I love that artist who does that performing art.
Right.
So how did you guys find each other and these people, and what was this new vaudeville all about?
Well,
Ready?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when I was at the Crazy Horse. That was when things were starting for me. And Kevin was just coming up with the Antonio material and all the stuff. It was more than that. Once you like I said, once you come up with a hook, a thing, then the whole act was coming together. But I was booked at the Crazy Horse like 6 or 8 months a year. It was 7 days a week. It was I was offered a lifetime contract there by the boss to do 3 minutes for the rest of my life. And I just told him, I said, I'll come back here 1 month a year for free. I will fly myself here. I loved it so much. But doing 6 months in a row, 7 nights a week, I just couldn't do it. But anyway, so it was Pete Byro who booked the IBM convention. And like I said, Pete Byro also did the Stevens convention. He was one of the people who, got me in that contest. And then he would book me at the IBM. And he loved my act, loved it. And then so he asked me if I would put together a show for the IBM convention. So I talked to Kevin about it, and you can't believe the original, like the first lineup. We were just out of our minds. We were like, calling Lance Burton. We had Arturo Brichetti. We had, it was like all these. We were only calling the best of the best. But because I was at the Crazy Horse, I couldn't do it. So Kevin essentially he co-produced it with me, but he was really doing most of the legwork. Really, I mean, I recently found all these faxes, and it's really like you can't believe because it cost a lot of money. Well, I didn't pay because my agent would send them, but I would just have to get as much information, so it looks like serial killer stuff, it's so small, And yeah, so
there are potentially young magicians watching who have no idea what you're talking about when you mention the word fax machine.
Oh yeah, I know.
They were like emails, but more physical.
Yeah, it's yeah, that was crazy. You know, we had to do that, and we had to send VHS. So anyway, Kevin and I put the show together, and it was at the Fox Theater, and we actually had a budget because it was sold to Japanese television before, so it was like two-hour specials just on our show. And again, we had Abner the Eccentric direct from Broadway. This is before he ever did a magic convention, and it was the premiere of Kevin's act. It was the first time people had seen that with all the Antonio stuff, and then it was the premiere of my Neon Door Frame act. It was like people had seen the four legs, but they hadn't seen that stuff. And then our friend Les Bubb, who is the most surreal mime in the world, and then so we did it. It was fantastic, and then for 30 years, I wanted to sort of get the band together, you know. And Kevin is obviously, because he works in The Illusionist, too busy to ever do it. And my friend Les Bubb had no interest in it. He became a TV star in London with his own, you know, kids series. But you know, in the last 2 years, last year it happened finally. 29th anniversary, we did it at the IBM, and it was fantastic. We did it at the
Vaudeville 2000, or was it Vaudeville 3000?
It was Vaudeville 3000.
Because the funny thing is, I remember trying to find the article, and I kept looking in the years 2000, and I realized that you put that on in 1990, 10 years before it was. So it was very future. It was futuristic at the time.
It was futuristic, you know. It was crazy. And
Kevin, can you take us back to that time? I mean, like now, obviously, a lot of the tricks that you do are just iconic. The rose, all of the stuff with Antonio, your sawing in half. It all seems very iconic now, but back then, as you're exposing it to people for the first time, what was that process like?
Well, about Vaudeville 2000, the interesting thing was that, you know, Rudy, one time in a conversation was saying that, you know, it's funny, vaudeville people would travel from, you know, town to town to do these, you know, vaudeville houses, and he says, we're like jumping from city to city, you know, city, but on airplanes. You know, we're going from Paris to LA to Monaco to, you know, all these different places. So it's kind of like this is how the new vaudeville is, and at that time, new vaudeville was starting to come into vogue, and you know, it was just kind of a well, if you read the article, it's all in there.
Yeah. And it was funny it was exhilarating because it's like you don't, you know, we do TV shows, like you'll go and do a variety show with other acts or, you know, or a magic convention or something, but you're with other magicians generally, you know? So when we did this, it was just unbelievable, you know?
It was a night of theater. It wasn't a magic show.
Yeah. No MCs, you know, it was just straight through, you know? And then we added, did we add like Jay Marshall because he was there, he was actually in vaudeville.
Right. He was our token vaudevillian.
Yeah.
One of the quotes in the article, because you were talking about how the people in the new vaudeville, in that 1%, obviously are original and create their own stuff. And you said there are two roads. One is a fairly easy one requiring no work or creativity whatsoever and always leads to a pitiful situation. The other road requires dedication, hard work, time, and actually having to think for yourself, and it's your choice. And I can't think of two people that symbolize actually, you know, original creation and uniqueness more than you guys. Do you guys have similarities in the methods that you use to come up with your stuff? I know you alluded to all of Rudy's notebooks, but when you've worked together on stuff, have you noticed more similarities than differences, or are they completely different creative styles?
Well, Rudy's a very fun brainstorm partner.
Yeah.
We did a lot of early shows together. We did Astro World Houston, got to spend a few weeks together there, and then he took me to a job. I was his assistant.
Oh, that's right.
In Evian, France, at a casino there, where we got to work on a lot of new material for his act.
Yeah, it was the first time I did the Neon Door Frame, the very first time, and Kevin was the hidden assistant in there for real. You know?
Yeah,
just like a panda.
So
I mean, right down though, so it didn't peek out over the sides of the frame.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's fun to have a super creative person that you trust, that you can just go crazy with ideas.
Yeah. No, it's
it's like a lot of the same things too. I think just really bizarre imagery, and he's from a cartoon world. I'm more of a sideshow world, but they kind of overlap. So it's a lot of fun. I think we all create it in our own different way, but Rudy's an amazing brainstorm partner for sure.
I think there's actually a George Carl quote, because he said that it has to come from the heart. And I think you guys, it's the case, but for both of you, it does come from your heart, but then that heart might get chainsawed or ripped out and on stage.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's amazing is Kevin's a great inspiration because, and again, he's exactly right about this. It's like we have had our hearts chainsawed when people copy it and then do it badly, or if you tell a friend about something, then you think they're your friend, and then you find out them doing it years and years. It's amazing how this show business, I guess just life in general, but it really reveals people's character. You know what I mean? It's like when people get that chance to be successful or be famous, it's amazing how people will sell out or just, or just sell out their friends is what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing is, Kevin told me, we would share, because we knew neither one of us have any interest in copying the other. So Kevin told me about stuff that didn't come to be realized for, decades, and then I finally, sort of hear about him in Korea doing this thing that he, had talked about, and I've seen in his notebooks, but Kevin always has incredible stuff that's just on the edge of not being able to be, to actually happen, not necessarily because of technology or, but you're always waiting. You have all these different ideas, disparate ideas, and then it all comes together in a point, but sometimes it takes just 20 years sometimes, it's amazing. For me.
Yeah, and then Rudy was able to kind of push his agent into finally getting me into the Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a struggle.
Yeah. Well, it's really weird. It's something
persistent.
Back then, it was hard to get a videotape. You know what I mean? It's like, the Dan Garrett thing. I mean, that tape still was crappy. It wouldn't get me any. It got me into the magic contest, but I still had no videotape. And then I got booked in Japan, and they asked me to go on a TV show while I was there doing a magic convention. And then I finally got my 3-minute tape. But because I mean, if you can have a great act, but when you have a crappy, dark, and back then, like Dan was saying, it was just VHS, it was a handy cam kind of thing. Nobody could afford, broadcast, I mean, like an iPhone is now. So, so people, like I had a relationship with my agent in Paris, and she was the best agent in the world. And the whole world changed when she retired for all of us. She was the best, And so she would trust me. You know what I mean? I would say, trust me. I know the tape is shitty, or, and then, and then I had a relationship with Patrick Sebastian. I had done his show. I did his first television show. This is the Cabaret du Monde, the famous French cabaret, the cabaret of the world, or whatever it's called. But I had done his first show called Sébastien C'est Fou. I was his very first act. And each time he did a new version of his show, he would always bring me back. I was his lucky charm, Mm-hmm. So the first time I ever did like Puppet Boy, I would come up with 3 minutes at a time, and then I would go and do it there. And basically doing his show would pay for the thing to get made. But he eventually trusted me also, you know what I mean? Because the agent would show him the video, and he would, and I'd be like, and then, then he knew I wouldn't recommend very many people, but when I really believed in somebody, it's just fun to see. It's a great thing to see creative people succeed. You know what I mean? And it's so much easier now with YouTube. let people see you, you know?
And Kevin, do you have any fun road stories with Rudy? Because I know you guys have been all around the world with each other.
Oh my.
Or are these stories that cannot be said on the internet?
Yeah, I know one.
Yes.
Fair.
I mean, we've had some crazy stories, but basically we were, you know, what was great about it, I mean, like it was, we would do shows or do like, you know, I bunked on Kevin's couch for, you know, a long time, you know, it was just any excuse to be next to somebody creative. You know, I've been very lucky in that way, you know? But, you know, I mean, for example, I was at Kevin's house and we were in Anaheim and I had, you know, we were talking about me with wearing Vans, my sneakers. And then he said, you know, Vans is right down the road. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah, you should call them. And back then I said, yeah, I'm going to call them. So I called them. And I said, you know, my name is Rudy Coby. You guys should know about me because I use your sneakers on television all over the world, blah, 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 blah. They connected me to Steve Van Doren, who was the son of the creator of Vans. And he said, yeah, come on in. And I was like, well, I can't come in now. I'm just wearing shorts. You know, we just came from the beach or whatever. And he goes, I'm wearing shorts too. Just come in. And since then, you know, that was 30 years ago or whatever, I was sponsored by Vans, you know, I mean, and he, you know, came to my wedding when I was married. And I mean, he's like a close friend even now. I mean, anywhere I go in the world, if I'm in China or I'm in Vienna or Italy, I don't have to bring the extra shoes at me because he'll call whatever Van store there is. And then they're, you know, because they all know him, you know. He's still they sold the company for hundreds of millions of dollars, but he's still the vice president in charge of marketing, you know, and created the Warped Tour. And he's like the nicest guy in the world. But that never would have happened unless I was with Kevin and we're just, you know, he just said, just call him, you know, and because sometimes that's how it happens.
And did you wear Vans at your wedding?
I did. I did.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's probably nixed the deal. But no, it was everything else was traditional except for that. I had to, you know, I had to wear the Vans, you know.
That's amazing. And Kevin, you can, by the way, check out his stuff at kjmagic.com. There's something you're working on with Gaten Bloom. Did that come out?
Oh yeah, it came out a few years ago. In fact, it was just a big, beautiful book called Full Bloom. And if you need stage ideas, close-up ideas, mentalism ideas, that's the place to start looking.
Oh, that's amazing. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Any parting thoughts before we let you go?
No, I'm just tickled pink. You asked me to share a little time with Rudy.
Oh, it's honestly my pleasure. One of the reasons when I first did Illusionist and they said Kevin James was on the bill, I could not have been more excited. And they say don't meet your heroes, but you lived up to it and more. So I can't thank you enough for always being so kind. And it's so good to see you, man.
Well, Rudy's my hero too. So, and you are now, Harrison.
I love you, man. I love you.
All right.
Kevin James, everybody.
Hey.
And we alluded to this a little bit because you started talking about building out your act from, you had the 3 minutes. Puppet Boy comes in a little bit later.
Yeah.
Eventually you get to a point where you're doing a special for Fox.
Right.
I know I was one of the kids who was heavily influenced by it. It rocked my world. It rocked my Vans off.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process of that and what it was like to be in the middle of it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's like, that was my dream to do my own television special. And I had gotten the opportunity a couple times, because I was more well known in Europe. So I had done a TV special in Monte Carlo, and then I did a pilot for the BBC in London. And that was nominated for a big television award and all that, but it was not what I wanted, you know, because I had a producer who was trying to make it more magic rather than a living cartoon. So then I had the opportunity. I went into a meeting with, it just shows you, it's like there was a show called The World's Greatest Magic, and I was the only magician who wasn't on it because of various different reasons. They said I was going to do one thing, and then they kind of reneged, so I didn't do it. And everybody thought I was making the biggest mistake ever, because I wasn't on the show with everybody else. Because it became this huge hit, like, they would be every, whatever, the night before Thanksgiving or whatever. And, but I was featured in Details magazine. They did an article, and you can't believe, like, it was the most outrageous article that's ever been written about me. I was a big fan of Details, and David LaChapelle, one of the greatest photographers in history, crazy photographer. And so I said, if you get him, I'll do this. So it was this crazy page spread, and the photos he took, they did one photo shoot that was rejected. It was $40,000, but they thought it was too weird.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I went back and he took photos of me, not even wearing my lab outfit. Because I had taken him to Vegas, so we did a parody of that. So I was wearing glittery stuff with a cape and a girl with her boobs out, and and then I would be on 42nd Street doing with the puppet, but looking like. And my manager at the time was like, "You're going to destroy your career because you're not selling Rudy Coby." I literally was in a laced weird shirt and a cape and. But I was just like, it's, when this guy took photos of Jim Carrey or, other stars, Leonardo DiCaprio, they didn't say, I have to be dressed like my movie character. They let him do whatever. He was a genius, and he was not famous yet. So anyway, and my manager was so mad. But when Fox Television, and back then there were only 4 channels, the kids don't really, So David Copperfield had CBS, Doug Henning had NBC, and then ABC, I forget, maybe it was Siegfried and Roy at some point. But so Fox wanted to have a magician. And he, the president of Fox, was at the hair salon in Beverly Hills or whatever, and sees this photo of me with this girl's boobs on my head and with a chainsaw and puppet in 42nd Street among homeless people. And then in the first paragraph, I can't even say the word or even acknowledge what the words are, but it was an outrageous interview showing like kind of the, bad boy side of me. So immediately he called, and I had met with Dick Clark. Dick Clark had come to my show when I did a college in Burbank. And so I got Dick Clark to come. I was signing a deal with him. And then Fox called me, and I said, okay, Dick Clark, come in with me. And we went in, and in one meeting, he just said, the reason I called you is that article was crazy. You're exactly what we want. And also because you're the only magician that's not on that other show every year. So it ended up being a good thing. And it was funny because my manager, anyway, it was the television, the president of the network said, oh man, your show's so cool. We should just call you Rudy Coby, coolest magician on planet Earth. And when he said that, I was like, I thought that was the worst stupid shit. I mean, I hated it. I can't tell you. But then he said, we should call Rudy Coby coolest magician on Earth. And my manager said, that's great. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, you know what? I have a slot open in 3 weeks. Blah, blah, blah. So it was like, he just, he just named the show and gave me, back then, $1 million, contract. But I had to have the whole thing done in 3 weeks. And that was actually a benefit because I was able to do exactly what I wanted because I had Dick Clark, and he's, he's an icon. He would do the American Music Awards and the Grammys and all this stuff. I was able to
green light, and then 3 weeks later, you were shooting the thing
on stage.
So everything got built, written in 3. That is insane.
The set, the script, everything. But here's the lesson from that is I had dreamed so many times of what I would want a show to be that I knew what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And I also thought big. So it's like, they said, okay, so we got to find a director. Who would you want to direct? And I told them, I said, I want the guy that directed the American Music Awards. And they said, well, that's Jeff Margolis. He's not going to do it. He just directed the Academy Awards. He directed the Oscar telecast and just won, the Emmy or whatever. He had just directed 2 years in a row. And I said, well, because they can get anybody into a meeting. I said, can you bring him in and can we just get a meeting? And, And they said, okay, but there's no way. And he came in, saw the video, you know, the 20-minute promo tape, and he was like, and I knew what I wanted. So he just looked at it like, oh, this is clever. And he seems to know what he wants. So, you know, it basically, there's the same 7 cameramen that do all of the biggest shows in the world, from, you know, the Grammys to MTV Awards and all this stuff. So it's those same 7 cameramen, and then certain directors that, you know, there's a list of 4 or 5 that are at that level. So he directed it, and because we had so little time, they really, you know, I storyboarded it, and with my friend Bob Self, he wrote the show with me, and they said, well, we've got to make a set. Do you know what you want for a set? And I said, what about the guy that did the MTV Awards? And they were like, there's no way, you know, because the MTV Awards used to have incredible sets. So like the one year was like Highway. It was a crazy highway that was spanned the whole theater. But, you know, it was like this space highway in one year. I can't even describe it. It was so creative, like out of a comic book. And I said, and it was Bruce Ryan, who, you know, the most Emmy winning, you know. And I said, well, can we get this guy to come in, you know? And they were like, well, he's not going to, but he came in and he loved the tape. And then he said, well, what do you want the set to look like? And I said, I want it to look like, you know, I showed him my comic book.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. I said, and I said, right, that's what I want it to look like, you know? So if you look at it, that's exactly what my set looked like, you know? I wanted it to look like Batman, you know, the original Batman comics where he has a giant penny in his, you know, and a dinosaur. And so he saw that. And again, there was only a couple weeks. He basically was just making that into 3 dimensions. And, you know, he got his minimum money, which is still tens of thousands of dollars. Right. But, I mean, you know, there's a minimum for people like that. They're still going to make their 30 or 40,000, whatever it is. But he basically, even though we had $1 million budget, you know, Dick Clark, you know, famously, when he died, he had $1 billion in the bank because he didn't spend it on his shows necessarily, you know? So our set looked like it was, you know, $1 million set, but essentially it was made from other pieces, you know? He got the idea of what I wanted, and we rented a lot of it, and, you know, but it was, you know, when you have somebody creative, you don't necessarily need, I mean, it cost a lot, but nothing compared to what it looked like, you know? And then because I had made the mistake of listening too much to the producers in London, where it really didn't work out the way I wanted it to. It was still great, and we got nominated. But this one, I was like, no, you know what I mean? It's like I learned my lessons, and so I knew exactly how I wanted to shoot it. I had studied Copperfield. This is a secret, but I've admitted this to Copperfield. Is the way I learned how to make television magic look good. I took all the Copperfield specials. I watched them. I still have the notebook. It's I'll send you. I'll photocopy it and send it.
I love it.
But it's single space. Every minute, documented every trick and why his specials looked better than any other magic special. You know, so I learned by writing down from every single special. It was serial killer stuff, you know. But after a while, I discovered how he did things, you know what I mean? Like he shot things like a movie, even though it felt live, there was no way to do the shots that he was doing, you know? So it was a combination of shooting everything live, but also shooting it as if it was a comic book or like a movie, you know? And I'm, you know, it's funny, I only had 3 weeks, but I'm very picky, but I'm almost 100% happy with that special, the way it turned out, you know? It was exactly what I wanted.
And I think also it's a testament to how, because I know you mentioned this in the lecture, that the 2 things you need is character and material. You need a strong character and original material,
right.
But that character comes first, because without it, you can't even choose what material you're going to do.
Right.
And your character was so strong, it literally had its own life in a comic book.
Yeah.
And so it only took 3 weeks to put together what I mean, you can see in the comments, my buddy Steve saying, I remember that special like it was yesterday. Love that special. People quoting from that special. Something that sticks in people's imagination for 20, 30 years, because it was in your imagination for at least 20 or 30 years before it went on screen.
Yeah, and the thing is that the other person that I really studied to the point where, you know, I I should have had a restraining order, was Pee Wee Herman, right? His first HBO special. I mean, I love everything he's ever done. I mean, his movie Big Adventure is one of my favorite. It's the perfect movie. But his first HBO special, not the series, the first HBO special was a nighttime show. It was for adults. You know what I mean? It was the adult version of Pee Wee Herman. You could see it on YouTube somewhere, I'm sure. It was Pee Wee at the Roxy Theater. And I always wanted to have a show that had characters, like a comic book. Well, it's a very difficult thing to mix magic along with characters. But where I cracked the code was watching that Pee Wee show. Because I was like, these different weird characters are coming in just long enough that you don't get sick of them, and then they go away. You know what I mean? Like so what I did was I transcribed his, just like the Copperfield thing, but I actually wrote it, every word, stage directions, by hand. Then I did it I typed it in screenplay form, but I ended up just by writing his show in my hands, it taught me a certain rhythm, and so then I wrote my show. So it's so inspired by him, and I think it's important. People don't like giving credit. I think, I find in general in life, they don't like giving credit to someone else because maybe that looks like you're not as original as they thought, but for me, it's like you celebrate your heroes. If somebody inspires you and you tell people about it and give them credit, it's amazing what happens. I mean, because I've, you saying that story, is you telling a story about running through the door is why I'm here talking to you now. Or, other people that have, people, especially now, people are going to find out about you. If you're saying nice things about someone, it's amazing how it does get back to them. And so Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, came to our show at the Magic Castle. Erica Larson's very close with him. And he loved our show so much and came back and he's talking to me afterwards. And I couldn't, my brain was melted. I couldn't, he was saying how much he loved our show. And I was just like, because I couldn't tell him what he meant, And I sort of said, well, obviously, So anyway, he goes, I'd love to see it again. And I said, well, tomorrow night I'm going to be at Brookledge. It was Erica's thing. It was for, I think it was for Randy Pitchford's party. He does a E3 convention, big video game company. So he does a party every year. And I said, I'm going to do Brookledge tomorrow night. And he goes, oh, I'll come and see you. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm only doing 3 minutes though, because I had just done my whole show. And he goes, I don't care. I'll come. I was like, wow, okay, cool. So I get there the next day and I'm carrying my table in and my chainsaw and stuff. And he drives up and he parks. He goes, hey, Rudy, how you doing, man? Da, 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 da. And then he goes, let me help you. And he's helping me carry my table and my chain. So I just stopped. And I said, look, wait. I just have to, I have to let you know what you mean to me, And I told him, I said, I learned how to write that script. And I told him about writing it longhand, then in type. And he was just like, whoa, that's heavy. And I said, yeah, but it's important, now that I'm a stalker rather than later, And he took it the right way and, and we become friends, So it's just, I've been really lucky in that respect to actually meet most of my heroes, and 99% of them are incredible.
And I think it's also important too, because you mentioned this in your notes about, and also in your Genie article about, you can be inspired by things, but the key is to not necessarily be inspired by other magicians, because that leads to magician inbreeding, where everyone is sort of cloning each other. If you're like in your act where you're inspired by cartoons and by The Exorcist and Bowie, that ends up leading to a really unique pastiche. But if all your inspirations are just Rudy Coby and you're doing 4 legs, that's probably not the way to be inspired.
Yeah. No, I give all the credit in the world, like to Pee Wee Herman and to Adam West, like the original Batman series. Again, when I met him, I almost couldn't talk because he meant so much to me. And what I love about the original Batman is that he is a great actor. He got typecast, you know, later in Family Guy and stuff. He was celebrated, you know, years later. But because what I loved about his character in the original Batman, it was so goofy, but he was straight. You know, he was, that's right, Robin, you know, you know, let's go get Catwoman, you know. So my character is absolutely, you know, so inspired by that, because Lab Man is very serious and it's a science experiment. And, you know, even though all this crazy stuff is happening, he takes it very serious, you know. So, you know, I mean, but yeah, and it's okay to be inspired by magicians to a certain extent. It's like, I wouldn't be who I am without people like, Harry Anderson. You know, Harry Anderson inspired me so much that, again, when you meet your heroes later, but the thing is, I didn't put on a suit and a hat like Harry Anderson did the needle through arm, you know. So you can be inspired by your heroes and just say, okay, I love this. Why do I love this? You know. So Harry doing the needle through arm and being this character probably inspired me to do the nail, where I'm pounding a nail, a spike in my face, and making it something, you know, more comedic than you know, gruesome. But so it's okay to be inspired. Everybody's inspired by somebody, you know, when you start off, especially. I mean, I used to be really bothered when I would see somebody doing my act, and I still am, if it's someone doing it on television, but my act has been stolen so many times. But when it's somebody that's young, if I see a kid on YouTube doing it doesn't really bother me. You know, it's kind of, you know, at this point, you know, maybe it's just age, but I'm kind of pleased that I was able to inspire them, and they're either gonna, you know, take that and as a jumping off point or not. You know, the thing is, you can be inspired, and even in the beginning, you are a little bit of a copycat. You know, I mean, because you have to, you know. But the way to do it is to, you know, you're allowed to read Stars of Magic and do the, you know, cutting the aces with the exact pattern because you paid for it, you know. So, I mean, that teaches you how to write. You know, nobody could start from nothing.
Right. But eventually, if you want to get a Fox special, you have to create your own material.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We have another surprise guest who's been patiently waiting.
Oh.
But one more question before we get to him.
Sure.
You did take a hiatus. You did your specials. That's like the dream of every magician. 2 incredible specials, and then there was like a sort of a gap for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
What was happening in that time? Was that like a creative thing? What was the reason behind that?
You know what? It's one of those things. It's like it's a weird thing when you get everything you ever wanted.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what that's like, but I imagine.
Well, but you know, I mean, I got what I wanted, you know. I mean, and so what happened was I was working on. I was going to do a Saturday morning series of with my character. You know, I had a big deal, and then what happened is the company tried to steal the rights of my character kind of from me, right? So it turned into this lawyer thing, and it was like they wanted to own the name Rudy Coby, and I was like, that's me, you know,
That's your name.
It was really weird. And what they were saying is, well, you know, like The Simpsons isn't owned by Matt Groening, and you know, but I was like, yeah, but Jerry Seinfeld owns Jerry Seinfeld. What are you, you know? It was just really weird. So it was a weird thing where I was getting, and it probably wouldn't have gone bad, but it was like they could have replaced me with somebody else. They could have had somebody playing me. So it was things like that. And then also I went through a period with some business stuff where there was embezzling going on, and then there was magician stealing my show. So I got kind of sick of magic, you know. The offers I got, because I was in this contract for a TV show, but I didn't want to do it with these people anymore. But I was so I couldn't do another TV show because of that, because of contracts and stuff. Right.
But then what brought you back? Because obviously you came back in a good way. What was the thing that got you back in?
Yeah. Well, you know, it was, and back then I was offered Vegas, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to. I was offered it was great. Lance Burton took 20 years and it's fantastic. People want to do that. But back then, I just didn't, and Vegas was a different thing back then. There was no Blue Man Group and there was no Penn and Teller. It was really just, Splash or like the Lido, and I'd done those kind of shows. So I wanted to travel more. So, I didn't give away magic. I stopped doing magic. I would still do occasional TV shows to pay the rent, but I just didn't mix with the magic world kind of thing. And then I worked with Marilyn Manson. I met him, and for almost 10 years, we were just best buddies, and I designed his show with him. You know what I mean? So and Alice Cooper was the person I first saw on TV that kind of inspired me to do magic, seeing him cut off his head. So Marilyn Manson was like the modern version of that. And now so much it's basically a rock show. But then he was doing crazy visuals, So I was able to design the show with him and have my robot girls in the show, or there'd be headless characters, and I was in the show with him too. And then what happened was he became my biggest fan. When I first met him and I designed his shows and I was on the road, he had never seen my specials. I wouldn't show it to people. So finally, when YouTube was getting more popular and all that, his fiance at the time, Evan Rachel Wood, who's the star of Westworld, she found it.
She plays a robot lady.
She's a robot lady. But in the Manson show, I had a $20,000 head made of her. She was a robot in the show when he would take her head off, and it was, so I was way ahead of the curve, So she really, 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 they both loved my show, and then they would sing Puppet Boy to me, you know what I mean? So they're being so nice, and them being fans. And then I had another friend who I said, maybe I'll start doing it. He made a full website for me, this beautiful, unbelievable, because people really wanted me to be back. And then once I sort of stepped back in, I loved it, and because I was able to come back and look at it from a fresh perspective, and but magic.
I want to bring this full circle. By the way, if you're watching, make sure you join the IBMmagician.org/join-the-IBM/join. They've been amazing to present all 28 episodes so far. So make sure you support them. We talked to Dan Garrett at the beginning, whose couch you crashed on. We spoke to Kevin James, whose couch you crashed on. And to continue this trend, I think you're currently crashing on somebody's couch.
That's right.
By Randy Pitchford.
Hey, Rudy.
How you doing? It's Randy Pitchford.
Wow.
About magic. He also owns GeniusMagazine.com. I proudly have the record for most times using penis in that magazine. The previous record was 0. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Harrison. How are you doing?
When was the first time you saw Rudy perform?
Oh man, I actually don't remember, but it was like late '80s, early '90s in LA.
You saw the full show. You saw the 2-hour show.
Yeah, that wasn't the first time I saw you, though.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, when I saw you do that full show in Van Nuys, I mean, I was already into your shit before that. When I saw that show in Van Nuys, like that was awesome, because that was like how long was that? How much time did you guys do?
Yeah, it was 2 hours.
Yeah, it was a lot, and it was amazing. And I left, and it was a long show, and I left feeling like, man, that sucks. That was so short. I wish this was another 3 hours. It was really, really fun. But yeah, that was sometime in that. Before then, I don't remember what I saw you do something a couple times, and that just it got in there, man. And we didn't like it. This was pre-internet, if you're going to see a magician, you probably saw them live.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, Henning or Copperfield or somebody you're seeing on TV.
And also you do, you obviously develop big video games. Those have very big characters. Did you see a sort of connection between Rudy's larger than life sort of comic book characters and the characters that you develop in the games? Oh, there's something happening in the background. It looks like Adam is busy working on something.
What are you doing? What are you doing there, Nick?
No, I'm just looking for gigs.
He's trying to find.
Unless you have a time machine to 2021, there might not be any.
Difatte, everybody. Nick Difatte.
Nick Difatte, everybody. By the way, I have a fantastic picture. I won't say who sent it, but he might be on the screen, and he's not me or Rudy. Here's a picture of Nick and Rudy together. What's happening here, Randy?
A lot of people, Rudy's been talking about, getting to know some people closer. I've had the good fortune of being well, it's been 6 months now since we've been in quarantine together. And Nick Diffatte's joined us, and this is in our game room. And we got bored one night, and my wife Christy's like, "Hey, let's subscribe to the Broadway thing, Broadway HD on Amazon Prime." And we watched Cats. And you can see Nick is feeling very jellical there, and Rudy came in as blind Santa.
I don't remember that role in the Cats movie.
Surviving COVID with Rudy Coby.
I have another picture as well. This looks also Broadway related.
Well, this is when Hamilton finally came out on Disney Plus, and so we had to get into it. So there's Rudy and Nick. Just this is what's going on at a random night at the Pitchford house.
Well, you guys are keeping yourself occupied clearly, so that's good. I think this is a more recent photo.
Yeah, last night.
That was last night.
First time we've been out in like 6 months.
Yeah.
And we went and saw Tenet, and I had some people help me where we were able to get the theater to ourselves, and I think it opens tomorrow. And some people are showing it in previews, but we were able to get a local theater to give us the place, so we didn't have to worry about catching anything, and we got a screening of the movie, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
And you also have your own theater, the Peacock Theater. Rudy has performed there a bunch. What is the ethos of the Peacock Theater, and how does Rudy fit into that?
I've created the Peacock Theater so that Rudy could have a place to perform. For audiences that
Rudy is
worthy. I wanted a worthy, there's nothing better when you're a performer to be in a place working, entertaining people with an audience that gets it and is like where you're giving it to them and they're giving it back. And we created the Peacock to create that relationship. And I'm not kidding. Like when I'm building it, there's a handful of people, like friends and people I consider family, that also get it, and we know we need spaces like this. And I think it was when Rudy was talking about it earlier, when he came and performed for the audience at Brookledge, the Larson's place, and Erica has been so awesome and so kind to let me use Brookledge every once in a while to show video game people what live entertainment actually is like. And Rudy did he did a set during one of the shows at Brookledge, and it's in that spirit that we created the Peacock. I mean, Brookledge's an inspiration. There's so many people, and Rudy's a big part of that. And when Rudy found it, I could see it, I could feel it. Like he knew I built it for him. And he's not the only one. Like I built it. You should come, Harrison. I built it for you.
I would love to. Anytime.
You should come and check it out.
100%. And I imagine the ceilings are slightly taller than the Crazy Horse.
16 feet, baby. Rudy can go full height, and we have some room to spare.
That's right. No, we did. I
like jugglers too, so we gotta have them,
Yeah, absolutely.
16 feet of spirits on the stage. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a dream. It's a dream situation. That theater is it's similar to the Magic Castle, like the best audience in the world. And because Randy is such a lover of variety, and it's a curated audience, invitation only. You can't buy a ticket. So it's like it's really the best audience in the world. There's only 3 places in the world: the Castle, Brookledge, and the Peacock that even compare as far as really great audiences. And Randy is, Randy did the, Penn and Teller VR game, right? So he's done a lot of stuff with Penn and Teller, but Penn and Teller were one of the first performers there. They've been here several times, and
Penn actually came before we opened. The first time he got to see the theater, we had not even put on a live show yet. He and Emily and Glenn came out because we were working on some stuff together, and they got to see the theater before we'd even opened it. And I knew, like, I could see it, like, okay, I think we may have done something right here, because I could see it in his eyes, like he was going to be back, and he's been back like 3 or 4 times, and I'd let him live here if he wanted to.
I think Penn and Teller ended up in your video game, didn't they?
The whole video game. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Borderlands too.
They became Pain and Terror in Borderlands 3. Yeah. Yeah, and it's been awesome too, because like they're great. Also, Teller did another character. A character named Marston, who's creepy as fuck. And Teller, it's a speaking role. but it's all voice acting, and he's so good. And, you know, and Penn is just godlike, right? So they killed it. But that's another fun thing too, like using the video game stuff to also introduce my audience to magicians and to variety arts. And I remember, Rudy, it was the launch party, I think, of Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
I asked you to come out and do some sets in the middle of and that was crazy. We had 3,000 people in this basically rave environment. And you know, Rudy he brought out the big baby head people, and he had Terminator in full effect, and he's doing, of course, legs and some of his stuff. But it was a party, and like I don't know of another magician in the world that could have pulled that off like you did, Rudy. And
thank you.
That was an incredible night.
Best nights ever. Yeah, it was like, it was just one of those weird shows. It was like, because we brought the normal show that they hire us for, but then I bring my baby head go-go dancers, and then we just do stuff in between, like I had done at raves, you know. Yeah. But no, Randy was very kind. Randy and his wife Christy invited me down for when COVID happened. They invited us down for quarantine in March, and I was like, "Are you sure?" And they said we didn't offer. So it was like I came down April 1st, and then we convinced Nick Difatte to come down 4 weeks. So it's like I feel bad saying it, but all the time I find myself saying I love quarantine. You know? But you can, I mean, and he talks about the theater being made for me. It's funny how I just realized last week that I was maybe getting a little too comfortable in there, because it was a complete mess. You know,
it was. If you can imagine what Lab Man's lab looks like, it was Lab Man's lab all over the theater. It was amazing.
Like Kmart blew up,
like building stuff, and just working with stuff. Yes.
Yeah. But it's fun, because Randy has an incredible library. He has, Randy buys every cool trick in the world. So even though I would say the last 20 years, I'm not so much I'll go into the dealer's room, but I'm not buying everything. I don't know everything that comes out, but Randy does, and he also, he has antique cool stuff, but also just every cool trick that comes out, Randy has one of, so it's just, and then Nick Difatte is an encyclopedic knowledge of sleight of hand, comedy, everything. And just, and they're just fun to hang out with, so it's like my quarantine is the best thing ever, I mean, it's sad, but it's just, it could not have been, I mean, it's a bummer for all obvious reasons, but it's like I'm quarantined with my best friends, I mean, Randy and Nick are literally my best friends, and Christy is, I mean, they're the most fun people I know, and there he is.
You can come on in.
Yeah,
Nick's busy on the computer.
Yeah. And it's fun that we're just sort of discovering, because we did a show for Randy. Normally does a show for E3 at the big electronics, the thing I was talking about, Brookledge. Well, we couldn't do it this year, but we did an online version. So this is back in June. And so we did an online version. And we put it together. Nick and I hosted, but it was like Puddles the Clown, Michael Carbonaro, Eric Chen from China, and all these, Tape Face, and it's just funny is, it was like doing a TV special, producing a TV special, but we're doing it off our laptops. It's amazing.
Those interstitial bits that you guys worked out were just some of the best bits of comedy I'd ever seen, and they were just like you guys were just cranking it out like throwaway stuff, and it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. So no, and we're working on another thing. You'll see it soon. But it's just having I can't even compare. It's like the Magic Castle. I try to explain what the Magic Castle used to be. Magic Castle used to feel, it's fantastic, but it used to really be a club. You know what I mean? I used to go to a Comedy Magic Club and work out the stuff for 1 week, and then go to the Magic Castle and premiere stuff. And the Peacock is definitely that. Now the Magic Castle is corporate, and it's fantastic. But we really, it feels like a clubhouse environment. That we wake up and we're just creative. And Randy has this beautiful theater with sound and lights and screen, and so it's the best thing ever. Are you jealous yet, people? Because
I think I could speak for the audience. I'm reading the comments, but
Christy will take applications. We have, I think, one more free room. There's a couple people we've been working on.
Yeah.
Join the party, but,
It's so funny and by the way, Randy's being very cool. I was actually worried because tonight, after I told you I would do this, we're actually doing a secret project. So I'm at Gearbox, Randy's company. We're filming a special secret project. So
wait a second, Randy, you're also at Gearbox. What is happening?
That's right.
yes, he's right down there.
Nick, you want to come with me? Fresh. Let's go see if we can find.
This is the Christopher Nolan version.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Nick's gonna walk backwards. All right, I gotta get this.
This is the exception of surprises.
We're interrupting a very busy, a very important video. That's why I'm dressed like this, and actually, the air conditioning.
We got a photo shoot going on here, and some huge set pieces.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're getting sure. That's awesome. It's amazing.
Robot. Let's see if we can find. I need like Beastie Boys music playing in the background. This feels like a Spike Lee movie right here.
I can give you some Puppet Boy. I have that on. I have that ready to go.
It's so. And you know what? Randy has good internet, so we could do that. Oh, maybe.
Somebody should mute. We're gonna start echoing.
I
Yeah,
think we're almost there. This is incredible. This is a first.
Yeah.
We have a surprise guest and a featured guest reuniting in real time. There we go. Perfectly full circle.
Nick Difatte.
This is incredible.
Here, you can sit here. Are you guys picking me up on the other mic?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. You guys are definitely close enough. Well, Randy and Nick, thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay well. Hopefully I'll get to see you guys in Texas sometime soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, guys. I mean, you're gonna
as soon as the Peacock no longer has to be dark, when it's all safe, you and your friends can be invited. You can help us curate a special show, Harrison.
I would love that. We can call it Harrison Book That.
That's it. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thanks so much. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you follow Randy. He's at Duval Magic. And also make sure you subscribe to Genie Magazine. It's the #1 magic magazine in the country because it is the only magic magazine in the country. So make sure you support it and keep it alive. They have great people on the cover. Like Nick. Nick's been on the cover. Randy's on the cover. So make sure you check out those issues. Those are fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. Randy Pitchford, everybody.
ready.
And Rudy, before we go, the final thing that I do on every episode, this is sponsored and presented by the IBM. And there's a lot of young musicians who are watching. Do you have any advice for them as they work on their career?
For the kids, you mean?
And people just starting.
Oh, people just starting. You know what? It's like it's funny because I don't sell them. So it's like these lecture notes I wrote. Basically, I was doing a magic convention. I had 3 days. I was doing this big lecture, my first lecture ever. So 3 days while the convention was going on, I was writing this. I was like, what is the advice I would give someone? Like if it was the 9-year-old me. And it, the biggest one was the 3-minute idea. You know what I mean? Come up with, because then you could focus on something. Come up with a 3-minute, and it can be close up. It can be, and because if you come up with a great 3-minute act, you can travel the world tomorrow. And it's funny, even then I've had people argue, oh, that's not true. Maybe that was true back then. It's even more true now. I mean, because people become famous with 90 seconds, I mean, Kevin James on America's Got Talent, did the operation once and it changed his whole life, So I don't think 90 seconds is enough, like to get booked live. But like a 3-minute act, you know what I mean? You travel the world tomorrow. And just my other advice is read everything, like really, really do kid shows, do stand up, do, illusions. I mean, read the Stars of Magic. Don't just look at videos, like really read the Stars of Magic and the classics and all that stuff, because you need to understand you've got photos I've never seen. You've got amazing.
That was from Monte Carlo.
That's amazing. That's Monte Carlo. Yeah. But, if you show, I never had to grow up. When I discovered magic when I was 9 years old, and I've never had to grow up. And it rewards itself, your life but show it the respect it deserves, and it's easier to be original. It really is. I mean, it's not easy to be original, but to me, rather than learning Yuho Jin's act or Lance Burton's act, those acts are really hard. And then once you learn them, they're already out there. They've been booked everywhere. You coming up with a 3-minute original act, the world is your oyster. And so that's really my advice is to, and give credit, study everyone, be nice, that's it,
I mean, that perfectly sums up everything. Rudy, thank you so much for joining me. I know you mentioned your heroes, Pee Wee Herman and Adam West. You were definitely and are definitely one of mine. So I can't
so
get
much
for being part of this, man. It means so much. And it's if the 8 or 9-year-old Harrison knew he'd be talking to Rudy, he would lose his mind and probably break every screen door he could find.
That's right.
So thank you so much, man. Hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Rudy Coby, everybody. Oh my God. Make sure you follow Rudy Coby at Rudy Coby on Twitter and Instagram. Dan Garrett was our first surprise guest. DanGarrettMagic.com. Kevin James, the amazing Kevin James, KJMagic.com. And you got Randy Pitchford at Duval Magic, DUVAL. And Genie Magazine. Make sure you go to Genie Magazine. There's an online version. There's a print version. Absolutely subscribe. And of course, this show is presented by the International Brotherhood of Magicians. So make sure you go to magician.org/join and you can join or renew your membership. And this show is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Next week is a doozy. Oh my God. I can give you a hint as to who the guest is. He was a surprise guest recently. So, man, next Wednesday, make sure you tune in. Make sure you mark your calendar. It's going to be a big one. This show is available as a podcast. Go to whobooksthat.com to download. Please leave a review. We really, really appreciate it. And as always, you can follow me at Harrison Comedy on Twitter and on Instagram. This has been such a fun episode of Who Books That. Thank you to everybody who's been watching. Roger Johnson says, so great to see Rudy. Dal, who's also in Texas. We love him. Oh, my God. Great job as always. Thank you. I appreciate that. Greg. Oh my gosh, this is such an amazing group of people who are tuning in. Erica Larson, huge thanks to you. And a shout out, of course. We had Steve in the house, also Steve Sokolsky from Las Vegas. So just thank you for everybody who's been watching all around the world and making this thing happen. Thanks so much. My name is Harrison Greenbaum. This has been Who Books That? Cue the music. Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum? I'm singing a theme song presented by the IBM.